Typhoon Phanfone, locally known as Ursula here in the Philippines, absolutely raking central Visayas, making landfall here into Eastern Samar, moving right over Tacloban. In fact, this is some video from Tacloban City, a shot at the airport, and you can just see those winds continuing to howl right on through. I would not be surprised if these winds are sustained over 60 to 70 knots. Also, there has been a storm surge reported there as well, just thanks to that funneling going up in here. The good news, I think, if any, is that people in this city definitely are not unaccustomed to typhoons, and I'm sure many people have heeded this warning since some very destructive typhoons are still very much in recent memory. As we go ahead through Christmas Eve into Christmas morning, though, western areas, Masbate City over towards Mindoro, all these locations are going to be continued to be impacted by this storm system. In fact, this is your signal force warnings from Pagasa. Signal force 3 does stretch across much of Visayas, but I do think Mindoro needs to be in signal force 3 as well. And even signal force 1 also in place for Manila. Some of those outer rain bands that stretch back here towards the north are going to be kind of scraping by the NCR, and that's going to increase that threat of locally heavy rain. And when you get friction in these storms moving through, also do remember there's even that chance of isolated tornadoes. We saw that with Kamori, or also known as Tisoy, just a month ago. It produced some tornadoes further away from that center of circulation. Though, big issue, though, continues to be down here in Northern Leyte as well, and also northern areas of Cebu Island. Widespread power outages have been reported there, too. Take a look at microwave imagery, and you can peer through those upper-level clouds and see that low-level circulation, and just watch how this just rakes right over Eastern Samar, making that landfall over Tacloban City, and now moving towards the west. I really like this imagery. It really gives you a good visual of where that inner core of destructive winds are and where it's headed. And one big problem is that it's still moving towards the west at 25 kilometers per hour. It means the forecast tracks a little bit further south of originally anticipated. That means, well, southern areas of Mindoro definitely going to be taking a harder hit from this, and even Cebu City actually reporting power outages just because of the outer fringes of the bulk of the convection. But boy, this blew up. I mean, this still continuing to intensify. My last update 6 hours ago, pressure was at 980 hectopascals. Now it's at 975 despite making landfall. Big reason, these sea surface temperatures out here are just superb, in plus upper level conditions, outflow aloft. I mean, this is superb for development. If it wasn't for land masses here, I think this would even strengthen further, but there is that friction we have to contend with. But I mean, still a very, very dangerous storm system. Now a typhoon moving across the Philippines, passing past Mindoro here on the evening of Christmas Day before moving towards the west and weakening thanks to the northeast monsoon out there in the South China Sea. This is actually a closer look using the ECMWF model via the Meteor app, and you can see where that center is as it pushes towards the west. Now, key thing I do want to note, though, is that you still have that big, wide swing of moisture back towards the north. So, Manila, maybe you're not being directly hit by it, but you still have that inflow, and that's going to be bringing some scattered showers, like I mentioned, with those outer rain bands. But I think southern Mindoro really going to be hit the hardest. I know northern areas of that island were absolutely whacked by Tisoy out here as that moved overhead. Still some power outages, actually. Somebody talked to me yesterday about it. A little bit of power outages continuing on the northern end of the island. Well, now I think the southern end is going to be taking a harder impact as this continues to move towards the west here. And eventually, like I said, it's going to move out here into the South China Sea. The good news, the northeast monsoon, you can just see it screaming in here, coming out of eastern China across Taiwan, and that's just going to filter this away as we go ahead into your Friday and eventually weaken out. Very, very similar occurrence that we saw with Kamori, very similar setup just a month ago, so it kind of puts it in perspective. But for now, though, this is still ongoing. It's not over yet. I mean, we're here on Christmas Eve, handing into Christmas morning, and yeah, I mean, Roxas City also going to take a pretty big impact here. I think the center is going to move right over you, or at least just towards the north, and a little bit of storm surge coming on the head of this. It's a lot to take in. A lot of factors in place here. From everybody that's been watching my videos, at the very least, I have seen a lot of people are definitely heeding the warning. But right now, I think the biggest issue thus far has been travel. Of course, all ferries have been closed, and a lot of the airlines have been closed as well. But also, people have been staying indoors, and hopefully that does stay that way as this move off towards west. Or if you are being ordered to evacuate, of course, you always want to heed that. But look at this storm. Still, I mean, the more defined eye after landfall than we had prior to landfall. I'm fairly, from a meteorological standpoint, impressed by this storm system at the rapid intensification it withheld, and then after it moved over Northern Leyte and Eastern Samar, it continued to maintain that organization. And that means for those of you to the west that are yet to be impacted by it, it's still a potent storm. I mean, put it plain and simple. Stay safe out there, guys. If you have any of those questions, let me know. Yeah, and Merry Christmas. Bye.